Hi everyone. Let's move on to the core of today's video. This is going to be a shorter production, but it comes with an incredibly serious trigger warning. We'll be discussing the abuse and murder of a very young child. I've covered some truly horrific cases on this channel before, but this one reaches a level of evil that is almost beyond comprehension. If you are sensitive to topics involving violence against children, especially infants, please consider clicking away now. While there are no actual images of the victim used in this video, there will be some generic stock footage of babies, not often, and only to emphasize the vulnerability and innocence of the victim. The footage is used solely to tell the story with respect and emotional clarity, and not to sensationalize. Now let's begin. The case of Hugo Ferreira and baby Caitlin. On Thursday, June 8, 2023, a monstrous crime occurred in Alpha, a small town located in the Halden province of South Africa. A 36-year-old man named Hugo Ferreira committed a crime so vile, it's almost impossible to speak of it without immense anger. Ferreira didn't just take a life, he took the life of his own daughter, an infant named Caitlin, who was just 8 days old. Caitlin was crying, understandably so, being a newborn who was hungry and in need of a diaper change. But instead of comforting his tiny, helpless child, Ferreira made a chilling statement. He would give her something to cry about. What followed was an act of such violent brutality that it left seasoned investigators and the public alike reeling in shock. This is, without question, one of the most horrifying individuals I've ever covered on this channel. Who was Hugo Ferreira? Unfortunately, not much is publicly documented about Hugo Ferreira's early life. What we do know paints the picture of a man who had been dangerous and aggressive for a very long time. He was born in 1987 in the town of Falkville, located about 40 miles southwest of Johannesburg. He was primarily raised by his maternal grandparents, while his mother spent long periods working in the city. As part of the court proceedings later on, a probation report was compiled that revealed disturbing details about Ferreira's upbringing. His mother described him as a violent, aggressive child who would destroy property and lash out at his grandparents. He apparently resented his mother for being away during his childhood and used this as justification for his violent behavior later in life. However, even when she was around, Ferreira's relationship with his mother was toxic. He would regularly demand money, and when she refused, often due to his addiction to crystal meth, which he began using as a teenager, he would violently assault her. A history of violence. In his early 30s, Ferreira got married, but 4 years later, after accusing his wife of cheating, he responded by vandalizing and torching their shared home. He smashed furniture, ripped out electrical wiring, and ultimately set the property on fire. His wife was forced to seek a protective order, which he repeatedly violated. Ferreira was arrested several times as a result. These weren't his only run-ins with the law. Police records later revealed he had multiple prior convictions, including theft, malicious damage to property, and assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. In short, Ferreira had a long and escalating pattern of criminal behavior, especially violence directed at women. He was constantly suspicious of infidelity, a hallmark trait of many domestic abusers. He was a man consumed by rage and entitlement, and age was no barrier to the harm he was willing to cause. Eventually, his violent tendencies would escalate to unthinkable levels. The birth of Caitlin. After his first wife left him, Ferreira entered into a relationship with a woman named Maureen Brand. Very little is publicly known about their dynamic, but given Ferreira's history, it's reasonable to assume that the relationship was turbulent at best and possibly abusive. In May 2023, Maureen gave birth to a baby girl named Caitlin. This should have been a joyful time for the couple, a fresh start and a new chapter. But Hugo Ferreira wasn't a man capable of feeling joy, empathy, or even basic human decency. Just 8 days after Caitlin's birth, he would do the unthinkable, the day of the crime. On the morning of June 8, 2023, Hugo Ferreira was at home in Aloyne with his wife and newborn daughter. The family was reportedly in a dire financial state. In fact, Maureen had to go out to sell clothes just to buy food for Caitlin. Before Maureen left, Ferreira told her to be back within 5 minutes, an unreasonable and almost impossible demand. Ferreira, driven by obsessive jealousy, believed Maureen was seeing her ex-boyfriend. His 5-minute demand was likely designed to fail, giving him an excuse to punish her later. When Morin didn't return in that tiny window, Ferrer's rage exploded. And tragically, he directed that rage at Caitlin. She was crying because she was hungry and needed changing. Instead of tending to her, Ferrer would later tell investigators that he saw red and decided to teach her a lesson. The brutal assault. What Ferrer did next is unspeakably cruel. He grabbed Caitlin by the back of her neck and repeatedly struck her. According to the autopsy, Caitlin suffered injuries more consistent with a high-speed car crash than domestic abuse. She had catastrophic trauma to her head, neck, and face. She had likely been thrown against the floor or walls. But that wasn't all. In addition to the physical assault, Ferrer also sexually abused his daughter. He admitted to inserting his fingers into her and rubbing his genitals against her. Forensic examinations confirmed these horrifying details, including puncture wounds in her groin area consistent with being jabbed by a needle. This was not a momentary lapse. This was prolonged, calculated torture. Aftermath and arrest. When Morin returned home, Ferrer delayed giving her access to Caitlin. He later admitted that he knew Caitlin was seriously injured and didn't want Morin to find out. Eventually, in desperation, Morin had to call the police just to see her own child. When officers arrived, they arrested Ferrer on the spot. Caitlin was rushed to the hospital, but her injuries were unsurvivable. She tragically passed away the next day. Ferrer was rearrested and charged with both murder and rape of his infant daughter. From the start, he admitted to both crimes. The autopsy and his confession aligned, leaving no doubt as to the severity of what he had done. Court proceedings and sentencing. From the moment of his arrest, Ferrer showed no remorse. He was emotionless and even cold, according to those who interviewed him. He admitted that he committed the acts while high on crystal meth, but claimed the drugs had little to do with his decision-making. In March 2025, at Pretoria High Court, Ferrer pleaded guilty to the rape and murder of Caitlin. He gave a statement, read in court by his legal team, admitting to what he had done. The court also reviewed multiple reports, including psychiatric assessments and a pre-sentencing report from a probation officer. Shockingly, Ferrer blamed Morin for his actions, claiming he acted out of rage toward her. Even more chillingly, he told officials that if he ever got out of prison, he would kill Morin too. Despite the guilty plea, he tried to argue for a shorter sentence, claiming his plea saved the court time. But on April 4, 2025, the judge rejected all pleas for leniency. Hugo Ferreira was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the rape and murder of his own 8-day-old daughter. This case is one of the darkest I've ever had to research and speak about. Hugo Ferreira is a man devoid of conscience, empathy, or humanity. He abused women throughout his life and ended it by taking the life of the most vulnerable person imaginable, his own newborn daughter. Thank you for watching and for staying with me through these difficult stories. Sometimes the world can be an unbearably cruel place, but telling these stories, giving voice to the victims, and ensuring that the memory of Caitlin is not forgotten, that's the least we can do. Take care of yourselves.